The second tournament of the ADV draft circuit has reached its redraft, and with another redraft comes another power rankings video from me. For those who aren't aware, my name is Martini and I help seal the Zinc Tartufo League, which is another tournament in the ADV draft circuit, coming later this year. Now, I know I'm a little late to the punch here. Many of the players and their drafts featured in this video have already been eliminated from V3.3, but nonetheless, I will still rank them. Of course, all of this is just my opinion, and if you disagree with where you were personally placed, then get your shit together and win the whole tournament, buddy. Starting off, we're going dumpster diving in our D tier, which are drafts that I feel are completely irredeemable and have almost zero chance of winning the whole tour. Starting us off, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce this individual's name. I'm gonna go with BD for now. Um, Apologies if that's completely incorrect. What I won't apologize for is putting this at the bottom of the list, because this draft is not great. So first and foremost, it's got the Skarmbliss Vap Doug, um, clearly trying to be some sort of stall core, right? Um, and Vaporeon can be offensive in a lot of cases, but to me, when I look at this, I just kind of assume it's like a placeholder for where Milo would be on like a V5 core. The other issue with this, if this is trying to be a stall core, is that there's no spin. And there's only two levitators as well, so this team is very spikes weak. Um, I guess you kind of have the Magneton to try to beat that, but in terms of how this redraft is going, you already have one of the three available Skarmories, and there's only three possible fortresses, and the rest of the spikers don't care about Magneton. So you kind of just end up in the situation where you have this slot that's dead unless you match up into one of the steel type spikers, which is 5 and 24, I think. That should be right. The other issue with this stall core is that it's horribly weak to rock. Their only rock resist is Marshtomp, which I know Marshtomp has put in a lot of work in recent tournaments, but I don't think it can be your solo rock resist. You can be funny and say Doug Trio's a rock resist, but let's be a little honest here. This isn't going to do shit into Aerodactyl. Another problem, you got Shit Service here. I hate this Pokemon. I think it is, it's like fine. The problem is like it's not 9 points fine. Um, and overall, I think like if you're gonna get a Ghost, you should you grab Gengar or you grab Dusclops, not Dusclops, Duskull, because it's super cheap, or you just don't bother. It's not worth it. In almost every situation, all of the spinners have ways to just barrel through your ghost type, whether it be through a psychic killing Gengar or Shadow Ball killing the rest of them. Except for Duskull, because that guy's the goat. He lives Shadow Balls. Nice Pokemon. Regardless, the problem is this team does not have great ways to make progress consistently, and um, does not have like the defensive backbone to warrant winning through stalling out the game. But this person beat my ass in bracket, I won't lie. So maybe they have what it takes to win despite the odds of having a poor draft, or at least in my opinion, a poor draft. Next up, and our only other draft in the D tier, is Benjo's draft. It's another Scarm Bliss draft. I do think the Scarm Bliss combo isn't horrible. I think there's better things you can take on as like the eighth wheel pick here, but I don't think it's horrible. However, I think Benjo must have been drunk when he drafted everything after that, because I don't think you could threaten me with anything to where I would be drafting Kingdra on 4, especially with this start. And Sceptile on 5 is a similar war crime here. Not sure what inspired that, but I'm not the one making the draft. I didn't make it to redraft. What can I say? Um, the Doug trio, it's fine. I don't know. Doug trio is also like weird. I never know where I want to slot this thing on draft, so I just kind of avoid it. I guess I can't talk shit about Doug trio. Flareon's good, but I guess like I, I'm just like speechless by this draft. I don't know what to really say about it. The pivot from this balance and or potential stall core into spec off just doesn't make sense to me. I don't really get it. Um, you know, all the best to Benja here. Hope he like does well with it, but I just don't know what happened. It is truly confusing to me. Next up, we have C tier. C tier drafts are going to be some of the more weaker drafts of the 24, but not ones that are like the worst of the worst, as in our D tier though. They're playable. They're certainly playable, but I think they could have, improved upon their craft. Maybe made some different decisions, would have made their drafts much better. Starting off our C tier, we have Volta's draft. Start with this Zapdos Hariyama opener, which I still am not a big fan of. I think it sucks, and I think it is a waste of a Zapdos first pick, but many people are still finding success with it, so I guess I can't complain too much. Um, After Regirock, we start picking a bunch of shitters. I assume it's to like get an 8-mon draft, but an 8-mon draft is only strong if all 8 Pokemon you have are good, but we do not have good Pokemon. We have Slowking, and we have Sandslash, and we have Lapras. All three of these being utter trash, in my opinion. I think Muck is decent. I think, at worst, Muck can explode, and that is value in its own, but these other three aren't great. Another problem, taking special switch, yeah, taking special switches. Nope. Taking special moves is really difficult. Not really anything to switch in to like say an Alakazam. The only psychic resist here is Slowking, which will just get eaten up by coverage moves more than likely. The other problem is Volta can bring Zapdos, Hariyama, Regirock, Arcanine, and then has to pick two Shitmons to try and close the game out. And I just don't believe in that being a good strategy, even if it is an 8-mon draft and makes the opponent prep a little more difficult. Next up, we got I'm gonna butcher this as hell. Zakui. I'm just gonna hope that's right. Again, sorry. Um, Issues with this draft. There is almost no Fizzbulk. You're completely relying on Milotic, um, which Milotic is a very good um, mixed wall. I will say Milotic is quite good, um, but it can easily get flinched through by something like an Aerodactyl or more likely a DD-Tar. The other problem is there's no Fizz damage. Your physical damage is coming from Cloyster Boom, SD Sceptile on a good day, Charizard F Punch if you're lucky enough to get a sub, Primate kind of. Primate is not very good. You can say Aggron has physical bulk and physical damage, but considering it will just crumble to a single ground or fighting move, I would not call that physical bulk. And its damage, well, you have to live a turn to deal damage. That's pretty difficult for Aggron. Um, it looks like it doesn't really have good matchups in anything. You got the like you can like get spikes down with Cloyster and hope Raikou and Zard and Sceptile clean up the game, but if there's like a decent special wall, it seems like it's pretty hard. Um, Another thing, what do you do with T-Wave? You just kind of have to switch into Milo. If it's an electric type, you can't do that. If there is yeah, if there's an electric type, what do you do? Um, you have this Hypno to try and bulk out some of those special attacks, but T-Waved Hypno is not great. It's fine, but it's heavily crippled, and you can't let Raikou get T-waved. Milotic can't switch into an electric type. Charizard can't switch into an electric type. Cloyster can't switch into an electric type. And if Sceptile gets T-waved, this Pokemon is like has a value of 2 points. It's terrible. So overall, I think lots of matchups are going to be hard for this, but I think it can eke out wins with the sheer firepower it has. Next up, we have CG, the first of the Metagross Aerodactyl drafts, seemingly a very common thing in this redraft. Um, Really important thing I noticed straight away. CB Quake just completely runs this team over. Your only CB Quake resist is Arrow, and are you going to chance Arrow getting hit with a Choice Band um, Earthquake when they could just click Rock Move and suddenly you really do have no um, CB Quake resists if you just let Arrow die to a prediction like that. So I think matchups like Tauros and Donphan are going to be really hard for this team. Um, the other thing, you have this like Metagross and Aerodactyl and Alakazam who all are incredible offensive pieces that really like spikes, but there's no spikes on this team. Another thing, Vileplume likes to set up aromatherapy and click Leech Seed a lot. It can do some like chlorophyll stuff. Usually it's a defensive role. I could see it being more of an offensive chlorophyll mon on this team. Um, but again, like you need spikes to really make that work. Not saying you can't win without spikes, but with it's a lot weaker without spikes. Overall, just kind of a weird draft. I'm not a big fan. Next up, we have a Salamence Celebi draft, which Celebi is the second pick here. This is like a crazy opener. And then we grab Regirock, good Pokemon, Cloyster, more Fizz defense, and Spikes. That's like pretty good. And then we grab Steelix, which I find really weird. I get trying to have a good rock resist when you have Salamence and Celebi. You want a good like Fizz check, but you already have Regirock. Regirock is really good at soaking those physical hits with the rock type moves and such. So I'm not really sure what Steelix is doing here. It's kind of a tempo sink and 11 points down the drain. And then Lantern is the only real special check on the team. I would have liked to see like maybe a Chansey over the Steelix, and then you can grab an offensive piece where the Lantern is right now. I get that Lantern is your ice resist and your water resist and your T-Bolt resist, which you do need, but like these are kind of problems that stem from grabbing Cloyster Steelix. Cloyster's fine. It's mostly the Steelix. So you're patching up a problem that you created by grabbing a okay Pokemon that does the job that Regirock already excels at. So again, not a fan. I think he pigeonholed himself into a pretty shitty situation. Hitmonlee is here. I don't know why Hitmonlee is here. I'm trying to think of why Hitmonlee is here, and he just looks cool, and we're gonna go with that. But I do think if you grabbed like Chansey or a better special check instead of the Steelix, you can then grab an offensive piece over the Lantern, and suddenly this draft is looking much nicer. Moving on, we have Gonza Monar's team. And look, just taking a glance at this, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Martini, this is a do nothing stall draft. Why is this not in D tier with the other do nothing stall drafts? The major difference here is this team can make progress. You have Medicham Tauros, which are excellent breakers. Um, and your two defensive pieces here, Fori and Weezing, um, they can do their normal shtick, setting up spikes, spinning, and for Weezing, clicking Wisp and clicking Sludge Bomb. But they can also like just blow up, which Explosion is the best progress move in this game. So these teams can just make progress like that, and then use the Medicham and the Tauros to also deal damage. They're not just sitting there hoping that the Spikes chip will rack up and you win the game somehow. Um, One thing that's weird, Magneton here, not a big fan of it. Again, taking Magneton when you have one of the steel type spikers, Magneton's usually trying to target is pretty bad. Plus, if someone has like the Skarmory or the Fortress, they're just gonna click ground move on your entry. I guess the threat of Magneton gives you a turn where they won't have the spike up because they have to like play around Mag. But yeah, Magneton with the Fortress is pretty cool in this draft format. I know Magdoll is like a decent team structure in OU, but I think it gets much worse in draft. The other thing, this team is very rock weak. Your only rock resists are Magneton and Medicham, who notably are not very bulky Pokemon and cannot actually tank those rock moves very well. They're also not fast, so they're very prone to flinching. Your game plan is kind of just like sack something, get Tauros in, because you can't raw switch. You can kind of raw switch Tauros on a rock move. It's a little rough though. Um, you don't really want your Tauros taking chip like that, even if it does get the Intim off. But yeah, overall, not great, but pretty good. That sounds stupid, but like it's a stall team that can actually make progress. So it's like, C tier. It's like meh. Next up, we have Jake Stein's draft. The Starmie D-Knight opener on wheel is like fine. until you like understand the context that Celebi was up, and you could have gotten some very crazy Celebi combos that you normally can't see because Celebi is typically taken in the middle in round one. Issues with this draft. I don't know where the random Tyros cosplay showed up with the Venusaur Houndoom. I'm going to assume that he got help from Tyros because like I don't think there's anything else that could really get you to pick these two randomly. Just seems a little weird. It's a little Bolt Beam weak. Your Bolt Beam resists are, yep, that's all of them. You kind of have Clefable, I guess. I don't know. I don't think Clefable's very bulky. I mean, it gets soft boiled. It's like, budget Chansey, I suppose. Um, Other thing, kind of a weak opener. Starmie is great. Love Starmie. Starmie is like favorite guy to pick on wheel. Love it. Then you grab D Knight, which is like fine. I think there's much better things. Again, Celebi was open. Should have probably taken even Starmie Celebi is like fine. Um, and then Jolteon third. I just think that's like a weak opener, to be honest. Another thing, this team, like a lot of teams I've noticed in this redraft, it just kind of gets wiped by CB Earthquake. We have a single flyer on this entire team. Everything else is like taking at least 40 from CB Earthquake. It's a little dire. Next up, continuing our trend of picking D-Knight Jolt Machamp 2, 3, 4, and then having a Clefable in the draft, we have DJS. This is a unique draft. Um, I think I've noted this down. Your defensive sort of walls here are Tentacruel for special attacks and Steelix for physical attacks and electric types. And I don't think that they're going to be able to, on their own, with the support they have, take the attacks that the Celebi and D-Knight need to be taken. Um, I think they're just going to get worn down really easily. Something like a CM Bliss or any electric type with HP Ice looks really potent here. Zapdos looks super scary for this team. You kind of have Steelix because Zapdos is kind of forced to run the HP Ice, or I guess they can run like Drill Peck in HP Water. That seems fine. Yeah, Drill Peck HP Water looks really scary for this team, now that I'm saying it. Um, Jolteon on Spikeless, I think, is not super great. It's really hard to make Jolteon work as this like support pick when it's clearly it wants to be fast and click T-Bolt into a bunch of guys, not sit there and click Wish and whatnot. So I'm not really a fan of it. It's like decent speed control, but in terms of what it's doing, I don't think it fits with this team very well. Yeah. Even like yeah, I noted this down here. Even like a shit spiker, like what are the shitty spiker? Cacturn. Cacturn's pretty bad. Cacturn could have been good here. I guess that kind of piles on the ice weakness, maybe not. Um, hmm. Yeah, okay. Just like a suicide lead that gets the spike down. Yeah, something like the Quillfish. Quillfish could have been decent here. Just getting a single spike down could be huge for this team with the Jolteon and the Celebi with Leech and stuff like that. Forcing things around with Steelix Roar. It could. I think it would really help this team overall. And Clefable still sucks, by the way. I think this Pokemon is bad. Rounding off our C tier, we have deleted users draft. I like a lot of things about this draft. I like the willingness to pick up Quillfish as a shitty spiker to help with your Raikou and Gengar with breaking teams down. I don't like the overall Mon quality. I say decent Mon quality, but some of these aren't great. I'll be honest. Like again, I don't believe in Lapras, but I get needing an actually decent water resist, so I think it's a fine pickup here. Kangaskhan, just like really good Pokemon. I feel like it's a little underrated. This thing probably shouldn't be going to fifth pick if it's gonna get picked, but I think it's either gonna not get picked or should go in the fourth round. That's my kind of opinion there. Um, Again, I'm not very high on Hariyama, and I think Claydol is pretty bad, but I think on this team they work fine. I was thinking about putting this in B tier. It's just like a decent team, but I don't know. There's just like things about it I'm not a big fan of. I again, maybe this is personal preference that I just hate Hariyama and Claydol, but I just don't like them on this team personally, and that's about it. Next up, we're gonna get to our B tier. these drafts are just overall pretty good. Maybe a couple weaknesses here and there, but generally speaking, I think anything in B tier or above is like tour winning potential, I guess. Starting off our B tier, we have Sharky King, the second Meta Arrow team we've seen, or maybe the third. I think there was three of them. I don't remember. Um, I like this team more than the previous ones because this team has spikes, and Meta Arrow with spikes is really good. I don't like this team because after Kangaskhan, we decided that grabbing good Pokemon was fake. Um, Banette is not a good Pokemon. I don't think Banette is draftable at 6 points, and spin blocking is super fake when they know it's coming, especially when they know it's coming in the draft format. Vileplume's an okay Pokemon. Mm, I don't think you needed the. No, 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 you definitely did. No, Vileplume's a good pickup here, actually. You kind of want the actual fighter check. I like this, actually. Contrary to what I was saying before, now that I think about it. Poliwrath is here. Thank you, Poliwrath. Sure. Fucking, why not? I don't get it, but maybe there's a plan. Um, so things to note. Another team that is completely shafted by CB Quake, other than Aerodactyl. And again, like I said earlier, Aerodactyl can't really be your CB Quake answer because there's just so many coverage moves that they could click on the switch that just kills your arrow, and suddenly your offense plan has just been completely neutered. Um, the other thing, your speed tiers are a little weird. You have arrow at 130 and then nothing else breaks 100, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I should go and double check that, but I'm pretty sure the rest of these guys are really slow. Not a fan of that. But overall, like, good draft. Can definitely win games. Um, got some really strong guys. And the fact that it is an 8-mon, regardless of what I think about some of these not lesser, lower point cost picks, the fact that it is an 8-mon is going to cause some stress in the builder for the opponent, and I think that will work in Sharky King's favor here. Moving on, we have Max's draft, and this is just a solid draft. I really don't have that much to say about it. Um, it's a little on the slower side outside of Raikou. That's kind of it. Otherwise, this is just like a solid 8 Pokemon. It's really good. Um, maybe struggles a little bit into fat outside of CB Machamp, but yeah, I don't know. There's not really much analysis to go on here. These are just like good Pokemon and Sandslash. Up next, Forte's draft. This is a very interesting draft. Scarmzap, amazing starter, absolutely good. Swampert as your like rock resist is pretty good. And then we grab a Sceptile on 4. This is like very perplexing to me. Like I am like the #1 Sceptile shill in ADV draft right now, I think. I've been preaching this guy's strengths. I don't think it's good enough to be fourth picked, especially on this sort of team. Um, Especially when Zam was up, I think Alakazam is just like much better than Sceptile here. Um, Nonetheless, solid team. 7 good Pokemon in Ghastly. Um, Depending upon who you ask, Ghastly is a good flex pick that you can bring sometimes as a spin blocker that does damage. I think that this is batshit insane, and if you think Ghastly is bringable, you need to reevaluate your life choices. The one issue this team has is you have to be really careful around special attackers. I think Zapdos, ironically enough, is pretty rough for this team. The only things that can take T-Bolts, Swampert, Sceptile. I don't even know if Sceptile can take a T-Bolt. That guy's frail as fuck. Um, they're going to be losing to HP Grass and Drill Peck respectively. But yeah, like things like T-Bolt and Psychic are a pretty free click here. No psychic resistance site outside of Skarm, who is going to lose to electric or fire coverage anyway, which most psychic types have. But other than that, pretty solid draft. Next up, we have Aeonfa's draft, and I have a very special connection to this draft. I talked to Aeonfa a decent amount about this draft. Well, you know, not about the actual intricacies of what to get next. More like I told him not to throw it away. Um, but if you were not aware, in V3, I picked up Snorlax, Gyarados, Regirock with decent success. It went pretty well, much better than some of the other tournaments I've played. So I was very excited to see Aeonfa do the same thing. And the one thing I told him, someone brought up his, I think it was ADL draft, where he had 3 normal types. I told him, for the love of God, Do not do triple normal type. Like you don't need that. Don't throw it all away for that. And I don't know if he hates me or if this was completely out of spite or if it's unrelated, but not only did he say, you know what, I'm grabbing the triple normal type, he also grabbed Mischievous, which is one of my least favorite Pokemon in draft. I think this thing is so bad and should be undrafted. Um, it, was this like made to completely spite me? Probably not. But I don't know. I feel like there's some hatred, some real malice in these picks. Um, Personal anecdotes aside, uh, triple normal's not terrible. Lax and Miltank are good Pokemon, and having Miltank be a secondary Lax with Heal Bell is like pretty good. Blastoise, great spinner. Love to have another water type on board. Mischievous, the Antichrist, not very good at doing anything. Hate this Pokemon. Roselia, Spikes, Sleep. I mean, it's like 5 points, whatever. I still think Clefable sucks, but like it's your only real form of special damage on this team, or like special coverage, things like Fire Blast, T-Bolt, etc. You kind of Mischievous if you're like insane, and Gyarados if you are a psychopath, but more or less it's going to be coming from Clefable. Um, Spoiler, I guess, I did see one of his games where he just cleaned up after getting a belly drum on Clefable, so maybe I'll leave this Pokemon to Aeonfa and stop, maybe I should hop off the go real quick. Um, Outside of that, amazing draft. I think it's great. Not really. I hate the triple normal. I hate the mischievous, but like he's doing well with it, so good for him. Moving on, Ty Carter's draft. Milo Beast start, excellent, and then we have 8 really good Pokemon. As much as I give him shit, Tartufo is right. Stantler is like one of the better 2 pointers. This draft is got a lot of things going for it. You got solid offensive pressure and solid defensive counterplay. Um, the one issue that I've noticed is that there's no flying resist. Things like CB Arrow and CB Ments slash DD Ments and DD Knight are going to be really scary for this team. Um, you have Credilli for all of your normal type issues. Credilli is quickly becoming a Pokemon people are looking at more and more thanks to a certain Violet River who's been shilling this thing since day zero. Um, Another thing, speed tiers. This is really important, and I think it's a very underrated thing that people don't really think of in draft. A lot of people do this where they have like one fast guy and a bunch of slow guys, or a bunch of medium guys. If you have if you want to have things that are both like fast and slow, if that makes sense. How can I word this better? You want your speed tiers to be close to each other so that your opponent cannot as easily like cheat on speed. Um, like they can't just do X amount of EVs in speed because they need to do a little bit more, otherwise they get outsped by another thing. So yeah, not if you have all your guys be slow and fast and nothing in the middle. The base 100s, for instance, are going to just cheat. If you have things that are base 130 and then like everything else is below base 80, the base 100s are going to cheat and run modest. They don't care because they're never outspeeding the base 130s. So having things like this is really good, I think, and constraining in the builder. Underrated. Great draft though. Little scary against flying attackers, but other than that, like amazing. Next up, we have Sosa's draft. Well, kind of Sosa's draft. They are going to be the one piloting it. However, I think they were busy over the weekend where redraft was happening, so they left it all in Scraft's hands. And I think Scraft did a pretty damn good job at drafting. Um, so it's the third Metagross Aerodactyl team we've seen. And thank God it's another Aero meta team that has spikes. Um, Overall, Mon quality, high. Those first 5, potent. Hypno, amazing. Cacturn, I, I'm not the biggest fan of this thing, but I respect it as, like, guy who gets spikes down and can do a lot of really niche utility things. I kind of don't hate it anymore. Um, Swalot's on this team. That's great. Thanks, Scraff. Thank you for adding Swalot to this team. Wouldn't have it any other way, buddy. Swalot's not going to do anything, I don't think. This team doesn't exactly have a super big fighter problem. But even if it did, I don't think slotting Swalot in is really going to fix that. So talking about the actual like weaknesses of this draft, giant thunderbolt shaped issue. Things like Zapdos and Raikou and even Jolteon are kind of just eating through this team. Um, you have Donphan as a bit of a stopgap, but Donphan notably has the special bulk of a piece of paper, and so it's probably going to go down to 2 HP grasses, or more realistically, HP ice. Um, Hypno is really good at taking these special attacks. Well, maybe really good is a bit of an overstatement, but Spadef Hypno is like a decent stopgap for this, a decent way to deal with it. Issue being this team has 1 toxic resist. Well, 2. Thank you, Swalot. Again, I guess. Um, Toxic on like Zapdos and Raikou seems to be really potent against this team. Um, if they because they can just toxic their checks and then just leave, and suddenly, they're on a timer, which is a little scary. Um, in that way, I think that this team really wants to just be a like an HO type build, or it just wants to out offense the team. I can see like CM Pass, Hypno to Moltres or Vaporeon or something like that being extremely good. I can see Cacturne setting up a spike and then getting killed. Great Pokemon. Um, Overall, like this is a solid 8, 7. Swallow, you're not part of the team. Sorry, buddy. But this is a solid 7 mon. And I think that Scraff did a good job at drafting, and I think that Sosa here should be able to pilot this well. Fennec Masters draft. This is a Mensme draft, very potent. You don't see this combo very often. You usually see Salamence and Starmie going in the first round, as they should. They're both very good Pokemon. You then see Hariyama Fori. I not really a big fan of this angle. I think that these two aren't very necessary. I think you could have found a better rock resist um, in the third slot. And I think Fortress, when you already have spin, is fine. It means you actually get to free up that move, but also making Starmie use spin is bad. So it's a necessary evil against Spike's teams where you're going to have to put spin on these two Pokemon that don't want to run spin. Um, that being said, these like last 3 Mons kind of really help this team out and make the draft look a lot better. Jolteon with the spikes and having Starmie and Salamence as like partners in breaking teams is going to be great. Hypno, as I said earlier, one of the better, cheaper, mid-cost Mons in the format, and Wishcash to help again with those rock-type Pokemon. This is like, yeah, I did write this down. This is about 2/3 of an OU team. Um, Mence, me, Jolt, Spikes. This is like, yeah, this is like almost just the Jolt Spikes team. Like it's just gonna be pretty good. Still not greatest fan of Hariyama. This is going to be the third time I've said Hariyama sucks. I'm sorry, but maybe it's not so bad here. I can see it maybe doing some work. Again, good draft. That's why it's in B tier. To cap off our B tier, we have Gang's draft. This is really good, and I think whether you put this in A or B tier, I think both are extremely acceptable. I almost thought about like making a Gang tier in between A and B because I think this is notably better than most of the B tier drafts, but notably maybe not good enough to be an A. But I'm very conflicted. Looking at the actual draft, you have Sand Spikes, got Tar, great. Registeel, amazing rocket normal resist. Charizard is a Pokemon that is good, but I still think that in ADV draft right now, you can definitely afford to just sack Zard and instead grab a like weaker fire type for cheaper, and I think you get a pretty similar experience. Flygon, great Pokemon, really underrated in draft as well. People see the 4X ice weakness and kind of shit themselves, but this guy is really, really good. I think, yeah, I think people worry way too much about that ice weakness. I think there's definitely a lot of counterplay. Tentacruel is a pretty good spinner on this team, considering it was kind of fighter weak before. I really like the Tentacruel here. And then yeah, you got Quagsire. It's just like your water check. That's like one of the things this team was kind of missing. You can argue Quake's not a real water check 'cause it dies to HP grass, but I think that there's enough counterplay here to where that shouldn't matter. But oh, yeah, overall, great draft. Could be an A tier on any given day, but for now, I'm keeping it in B. Now we finally have reached our A tier. These drafts are great and should be expected to place fairly high within the tournament, depending upon where they are. Obviously, some of these players are starting in lower bracket, and that will greatly affect whether or not they place high, just because of how difficult getting through the lower bracket is. But that is something we'll have to see for ourselves when the time comes. Opening up our A tier, we have Violet Rivers draft, only here because she helped make the list, of course. Jokes aside, this is just an OU team. Targarg, Spikes, Moltres, Chansey, Flygon, Quagsire, all great Pokemon. Um, you just like, yeah, this is also very similar to like if you remember, I think it was Emerald Open 4, H-Clat's draft that almost won the whole thing, if I remember correctly, was some form of Targar, Spikes, Moltres, Chansey. I'd have to go look back at that to be sure. I know the first four are definitely on that team. Um, so these Pokemon just like really cover each other's weaknesses really well. You have this double ground type to help with the rock moves that this team is kind of struggling with, and it also helps Chansey deal with electric types. Um, Chansey notably is like a really good special wall for 9 points. However, it can struggle into set up sweepers with more than 400 health, which I don't think are in this tier. I think I think the only notable ones, CM sweepers at least, are like um, Suicune and Jirachi, and they're both banned. But we saw in Emerald Open 5, Chansey was really struggling against um, Mono Raikou. It could not break Rest Raikou. So having like these ground types that force Raikou to choose a hidden power type is really strong for this team. I also really like the Soul Rock as your secondary, or I guess it's kind of a tertiary normal resist. The problem with Tyranitar and Gengar as normal resists is that they functionally don't work sometimes if your opponent is playing the prediction game, and they probably will be because it's draft, you know what their team is. So having Solrock here is great. Um, Gengar notably dying to Shadow Ball and HP Ghost, and Tyranitar dying to fighting moves. Both of these are what most normal types are getting both of these, so or at least one of them. Solrock, it is weak to HP Ghost, but it's not thin as paper like Gengar is, so it can easily just shake off the hit. Probably only doing like 40 from most banders, maybe up to like 50. Uh, Bold Solrock's really good. I don't know Solrock calcs off the top of my head. Sue me. But yeah, overall, great team. OU team, more or less, um, with some downgrades. But I trust River can take this team and just outplay people with it, honestly. Next, we have Sleepy. This lucky bastard has gotten Snorlax in yet another tour. Amazing opener, Snorlax, Regice, Gyarados, and just rounding it out with good Pokemon and Sandslash again. Um, the issues that this team has is that it's kind of normal week. Your sole normal resist is Solrock, and your only other counterplay is like Intim spam from Gyarados and Arcanine, who notably hate taking normal type moves, even through Intimidate. But other than that, this team's really oh, sorry, it's triple Intim. I didn't see Granbull down there. My bad. But other than that, team is just really solid. You have this like double offensive special wall with Snorlax Regice, and you have potential for sweeps with Gyarados and Espeon, and then you just have like four decent supporting Pokemon that can all chip checks and whatnot and do decent damage. Yeah, good draft. Sleepy has been doing great with these redrafts and such. Their drafts are usually quite high quality, hence their success. In the middle of A tier, Darth Tyros. This guy, notable for making D tier on my last list, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was bottom of C tier, uh, making a completely ground weak draft. This time, he has finally done it. He has finally made a redraft that is good and screams Darth Tyros. Um, this spec off-ish looking build is looking pretty potent. Again, it is a Tyros build, so it does look it's pretty CV Quake weak. Only flyer being Zapdos. However, spec off is Tyros' specialty, so I expect he'll be able to pilot this excellently. I think the Azumarill is very interesting. He was talking to me about this a couple days ago on why he picked it. Talking about how his Azumarill theory is that Azumarill is very good because it's a physical attacker that isn't weak to a lot of what normal physical attackers are. So, types such as like water or rock or fighting, it is not weak to any of those, and so it has like a interesting niche in being able to use thick fat or not thick fat, huge power and choice band to deal massive amounts of damage without needing to worry about a lot of the normal physical checks people are picking up. Hopefully that works out great for him because I think that's really interesting and a unique way to look at it, and I hope he succeeds with it. And our last pick in the A tier is going to be Seeker's Draft, yet another Snorlax draft in the A tier. Um, who would have guessed this Pokemon is broken? Laxgera, known combo. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone like agrees that it's like really good. The only discourse I've seen is whether you take it on 2 or 3, and most people are saying you should take it on 3 because Snorlax is going pretty early, and most drafts aren't going to snipe Snorlax for you. From you, so you should just take not Snorlax. Most drafts are not going to be sniping Gyarados from you, so you are usually allowed to take it on 3. Um, Outside of draft theory, here we have a really solid draft with a lot of good supporting mons that help deal with each other's weaknesses. I really like Torkoal Feraligatr. I know I talked very down on Feraligatr in the past, but I think here, as a cheap, bulky water to round out the draft, I think it works much better than let's see, what was the build? EO5, there was someone with like V5 Feraligatr. Yeah, that was not great. Here though, I think it has a much better chance of doing some great things in game. Um, some issues it has is it's 7 grounded Pokemon, and your spinner is Donphan. Um, Donphan is an okay spinner, but like all spinners, he hates spinning, but he can sure as hell do it. Yeah, so kind of weak to CB Quake. You kind of have Gyarados to deal with that. Also, no normal resist, so gonna have some issues dealing with things like opposing Tauros and Snorlax, but we'll see how Seeker pilots that to deal with those weaknesses. And last but not least, to cap out the video, we have our 2 S tier drafts that are just a step above everyone else. Our second best draft here is going to be Friday's draft. You'll notice this is a similar structure to Rivers, Targar, Spiker, Rock Resist, Moltres, Chansey. However, the pieces outside of the Targar, Moltres, Chansey are much stronger here compared to Rivers draft. You have Fortress as your Spiker, which completely um, how do I want to say this? This completely like nullifies the whole normal resist problem River kind of had. And then you also have Swampert over Quagsire. Just like a stronger pieces in general. I do think a little weird thing you have going on here is Ludicolo, who usually wants the rain up instead of the sand, so there might be some anti-synergy there, but also there might be something cooking I'm not even like aware of. Yeah, just like solid tar spike structure with no clear weaknesses. Got to be a little careful around it's Fortress. You got to be careful. You got to be scouting for the HP fires. Um, even the shittiest special attacking Pokemon can run HP fire and do like 50 to Fortress. It's crazy. So just got to be really careful around that. Other than that, just amazing, amazing draft. When I was in V3.3 still, I was in the losers bracket finals, and I played versus Spreek. And after some very unlucky turns on my end, Spreek managed to take the game. And I told him, with that robbery, you better not throw away your redraft. And in response, he has crafted this masterpiece draft. Where do I even start with this draft? All 8 of these Pokemon are viable brings. Pikachu being a less of a viable bring. However, it is still it's still potent. You can't disrespect Light Ball Pikachu. That would be an embarrassing way to lose it, especially in like a playoff um, scenario. But you got Starmie and Salamence, which are amazing offensive presence, and Starmie can even have some defensive presence given a matchup where that is better. Registeel, of course, being one of the best defensive backbones in draft, being able to spread and cripple Pokemon with paralysis, as well as just explode eventually. You got Entei, one of the better CM sweepers, being the only like fire type setup sweeper that isn't reliant on pinch berries. Very scary threat. Miltank is kind of your toolbox for this team. It can just be a bulky normal with Heal Bell and Milk Drink, but it can also run curse sets that can just run over teams. Cacturn, just gonna set up the spikes. I know I said earlier there's some utility stuff Cacturn can do, but I expect on this roster it's just gonna be setting up the spikes for the rest of the very scary Pokemon to abuse. And then Quagsire, you got your secondary rock resist after Registeel, and your more importantly your water check. Registeel's kind of a water check, but Quagsire is much better with that water absorbability. Unfortunately, like I said, Spreak is starting in losers, so there's a good chance that this team doesn't end up going super far. However, I think, given the sheer strength of it, that this team can make a solid losers run. Here's the final sort of tier list. It's a little hard to read because it's not like profile pictures like last time. It's everyone's draft pool and draft position. Um, I say this with no shame. I completely just stole the ZTL2 tier list maker because I was lazy. Um, and we happened to both have 3 draft pools. That made that a little easier. Shout out to River and Zinc and Chris for helping me make the list. Shout out as well to Volta for running the tour. And also thank you everyone for watching this. I do appreciate it. I do have a little bit of channel news while I'm here. In the near future, there's going to be some game commentary videos. We're going to start off on the ZTL 1 finals and then the ZTL 2 finals. And then at some point, I will be setting up a channel in the ZTL Discord where people can recommend replays for me and or Zinc to cover, depending upon who wants to. Um, but yeah, other than that, thank you again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.